Hello. Okay, now you know what to eat. We've done the kitchen makeover and we've done the restock with whole, minimally processed foods. So now we need to know how you can determine the amounts that you need to eat without counting calories. Now that might sound a little bit strange. How can you possibly know what to eat if you're not counting calories or you're not weighing and measuring stuff? Well, let's just dive into what calories are anyway and why essentially counting calories is pretty pointless actually. So what is a calorie? Well, it's the energy needed to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water through 1 degree C, and it's now usually defined as 4.1868 joules. So right there, you've got an inaccuracy. When you read the back of a packet and it says that it's, I don't know, 100 calories and 400 kilojoules, for example, well, it's not really. It's, you need to times by 4.1868, which you're not going to do, of course. So they round things up. Why else? You've probably all heard that weight loss is a balance between calories in and calories out. In other words, you need to take in less than you burn to lose weight. But this is not really the whole picture. We'll just go through now where these inaccuracies lie. In terms of calories in, there's a number of ways that sort of tracking and monitoring this is inaccurate. So food manufacturers can use any one of 5 different methods to estimate a calorie, which can vary by 20%. So for example, 150 calories means it could be 130 calories or 180 calories. Now, when you're trying to lose weight, if you're eating 180 calories as opposed to 150 calories, that's a huge difference if you add it up over the course of however long you're sort of supposedly dieting for. You're taking in much more than you expect. Another thing is that we don't absorb all of the calories that we eat. There's a number of factors that play into that. So, for example, with protein, for every gram of protein, there's actually 5.65 calories available to your body to use, but you generally only absorb about 4 of them. The rest of it is just excreted out. Now, with fat, probably all know that there's 9 calories for every gram of fat. There's actually 9.45, okay? And with carbohydrates, that's much closer, but you've got 4.1 calories available for absorption, but your body generally only absorbs 4 calories. So this is where you can see that your carbohydrate calories and your protein calories are generally said to be equal, but actually they're not. And when you look closer at this, the types of foods that you eat also dictate how much of the calorie content is absorbed. So nuts, for example, we tend to absorb less calories than are generally calculated. And fibrous foods, particularly sort of fruits and vegetables, we tend to absorb more than that's actually calculated. So again, you can see this is where errors are starting to creep in. Then how you cook your food makes a huge difference. It doesn't matter whether it's cooking, chopping or blending, it changes the calorie load. And generally cooking actually increases the amount of calories available for absorption. So again, more errors happening here. Your own body and your gut bacteria can increase or decrease the calories you absorb. Another thing that's very common is the fact that we're actually pretty rubbish at eyeballing portion sizes. You can see here, I've given you an example of what a level teaspoon of peanut butter is, and I'm definitely guilty of this one here. And same thing with the scoop of ice cream. So now let's look at calories out. Even in the lab, whether there's a hermetically sealed lab, which is incredibly difficult you can still get a little bit of error. Labeling of water can be inaccurate. And even this indirect calorimetry, which, as it says here, is the method between 99% of the calorie burn estimates you see, can be up to 45% wrong. And that's massive. Commercial fitness trackers, they're not all that they seem as well. They can be out between 9 to 23%, which is a massive difference. So let's just say, for example, you thought you'd burn 300 calories. Well, that could be anywhere between 230 or 371, according to this one. Your Fitbit or whatever is also very inaccurate. We all burn energy uniquely. Genetics, sleep, and for us ladies, where we are in our cycle also affects how much energy we burn. And as I've alluded to here, there are a number of trainers that I personally know who take advantage of this, particularly when preparing their female competitors. They'll do the strength building in the first part of the cycle and then aim for fat loss in the second part of the cycle. Metabolic rate really does, and we saw this before when we were doing metabolic adaptation. Metabolic rate is a huge factor in how much calories you actually burn. So you remember that the thermic effect of food. which is the amount of calories you burn via digestion, you can see here protein will use about 30% of its energy just to digest it, whereas carbohydrates only 5 to 10% and fats 0 to 3%. So this is when you're wanting to lose weight, this is why the type of foods you eat can make a huge difference as to your results. Remember NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This particular study here overfed people, normal people these were, so it overfed normal people by 1,000 calories a day for 8 weeks. Some people only gained 0.79 of a pound, obviously it's an American study, whereas other people gained 9.3 pounds. What on earth accounts for the difference? And what they found out was it was their NEAT. So this is why whenever you're trying to lose weight, activity is absolutely crucial. And remember the previous diet history as well. Reduce obese people, their resting metabolic rate would be permanently downregulated. So how do we measure how much food we need to eat? What's the solution? Well, I'm sure all of you have 2 of these. I hope all of you have 2 of these. This is what we're going to use. And the reason that the hand works so well is because it's proportional to the size of your body. If we gauge the food by the size of your hand, it doesn't matter if you're like a 120 kilo guy who's 6'5". Your hands are going to be bigger than little old me here, who's 5'3" and 58 kilos. Hand sizes are an absolutely beautiful way of gauging how much to put on a plate that works for you. So, and here are the recommendations really. And you've probably heard this before actually. How much is the right amount of protein to eat in a meal? The size of your hand. How much is the right size of serving of vegetables? Size of your fist. How much carbs should you eat? About a cupped hand and 1 thumb of fats. So to create your baseline, if you aimed for 3 or 4 meals a day, 3 or 4 meals a day is a good baseline. And of course, each of you is individual and you will need to sort of experiment with what works for you. Start with 3. If you find you're really, really starving, go up to 4. Men should aim for sort of 6 to 8 servings of each food group per day, and women should aim for 4 to 6 servings of each food group per day. Now, this little variation for women, you probably ought to get the variation from either protein or vegetables, and for men, you can get the variation from carbs. Okay, so this is one really, really good way of doing it, and I'll just show you what that looks like on a plate. So remember, we've got the thumb of fat. There's a thumb of fat. So if you were wondering how you would do something that's not long or whatever like this, here we go. I've got some almonds here. So that's a thumb of fat. This handful of salad here is about a fist. This is cooked chicken. You can see if I held that in my hand, it would be the size of, or when I cut it up originally before I cooked it, then it was the size of the palm of my hand. I've got my kitchery here, a serving of carbs. So you put it all together and that's what it looks like on a plate. Okay? So that's how you do the hand portion sizes. Now, another way of doing how much to eat is, from my friends at Precision Nutrition, is this plate. So you basically fill half your plate with vegetables, a wide variety of vegetables, a quarter of your plate is protein, and the last quarter is divided 1/8 in starchy carbs and 1/8 in good fats. And it does say here, really fruit or additional carbs should only be, or dessert should only be after exercise. And then there's some couple of rules here. Eat slowly. I think I may have alluded to that before, but eat slowly. Stop when you're 80% full. Choose minimally processed foods where possible, and use smaller plates based on your body size. Okay, but if you take this is a really good way of gauging how much to eat. And this is pretty much how I do all of my meals all the way through comp prep. In fact, it's just how I do my meals. This is the method I prefer because I've got so used to knowing what it looks like on a plate that I just literally just throw things on a plate and I know that it works. It's very, very simple. And here's what it looks like on a plate. Okay, so you can see half the plate is veggies. This is hummus, so 1/8 of the plate is hummus, 1/8 of the plate is starchy carbs, and about a quarter of the plate is protein. So you can see it's very, very simple. And once you start learning what stuff looks like on a plate and how it should fit, you can start to throw meals together very, very quickly. You can literally just grab a handful of salad, grab another handful of salad. On your food prep, you just chop things to size bake them or cook them, enough for 3 or 4 days or whatever it is. And you can literally just plonk stuff on a plate and know that it works. Once you get to that point, not only does it reduce the amount of thinking you do, which takes any stress out of it, but you always know that your meal is going to work towards your goals. And it just takes all of the anxiety away, it takes all the thinking away, it takes all the uncertainty away, all the confusion, all the confusion. It just becomes so much simpler. Okay, so this is how we're going to set up the champion lifestyle. Now, the hand-sized portion guide and the precision nutrition plate portion guide, they're all very well when you've got foods that fit nice chunks. And this is how I actually make my life incredibly easy. I do pick foods that can be done in nice chunks so that I can literally plonk stuff on a plate. And I just remembered that, gosh, probably about 3 years ago, when I was actually doing my blogging, I actually wrote about how, you can see here, I called my diet the Lego diet, because what I did is I equated what I do with my diet to a piece of Lego, and how that you created a meal just by putting the right chunks of Lego onto a plate. So this is the blog I wrote, and I called it the Lego diet, and how to make comp diet really, really, really ridiculously easy. I must have just watched Zoolander or something like that. But that's the principle of it. I actually mapped out exactly what I do on my comp diet. And you can see here, my 2 main meals of the day totally fit the precision nutrition plate. Totally. Half the plate is vegetables, quarter of the plate is protein, 1/8 is fat, and 1/8 is starchy carbs. And I wrote this about 3 years ago, actually before I discovered precision nutrition and became a certified coach in precision nutrition. This is why I believe in their philosophy so much, because it actually dovetails totally with what I have been doing, like I say, since I lost all my weight. And you can see here, like I say, this is about 3 years old, this blog post. It totally fits with the whole chunk theory. So if you can make things into chunks, you will make your life an awful lot easier. Okay, so that's all well and good. But what happens if you've got foods or meals that don't fit into this, either the hand-sized portion guide or the PN plate? Thinking about things like soups or curries, maybe even stir fries or sort of oatmeal, that sort of stuff. So, or shakes, how do you fit those into either the precision nutrition plate or the hand-sized portion guide? Well, what I'll do, so I'll give you examples of these as we go along that'll really help you get a good sense of how this process actually works. So there you have it. That's it. That is the champion lifestyle. That is how you set it up. That is, we've covered the 2 ways of setting up your food and how to create your baseline. Now that we know this, all we have to do is actually implement it.